On this episode of Gun Talk Hunt, we talk with a good buddy who's a turkey expert and fishing expert, and we're talking about women in the outdoor space and how to acquire more turkey hunting property. All right, welcome in, Gun Talk Hunt fans. I'm your host, KJ, and today we're talking to good buddy. He's been on here before. He's a contributor to the newsletter, all that good stuff. But before we get into who it is, and I know you're wondering, we're going to go ahead and tell you who this wonderful Gun Talk Hunt is brought to you by. It's brought to you by Savage Arms. Lockdown, secure your lifestyle. Silencer Central, silence delivered. Brownells, serious about firearms since 1939, and Vortex Optics. Excellent stuff right there. All right, I'm going to bring in Thomas Allen, and we're going to get to know you real quick because I know some people just jump in and they're like, who's this Thomas Allen guy? Why does he matter? Well, he matters to me because he's my hunting buddy for years and years and years, and we've known each other forever. So without further ado, tell them who you are, Thomas.
Well, I guess that means you and my mom care, so I appreciate that. I've worked in the outdoor industry this is going to be year 18 now, and we've known each other for most of that, Kevin.
Uh-huh.
So I work at In-Fisherman as a digital content manager. That is the premier freshwater fishing publication, especially across the upper Midwest. I spent 5 years at Bassmaster, and even before that with North American Fishermen. So you see a trend in the fishing industry, and that was never my intention when I started. I thought it was going to be hunting, and by God's grace, I ended up going down that road. And what's been nice, Kevin, is it's allowed me to free up my falls so you and I can go shoot stuff together.
Do not get me started on that. Because, I mean, you and I had talked all about this all the time because I was at Blue Heron Communications, which was a PR agency, and they stuck me on the fishing side. Thank goodness, because I got to meet you.
Lucky you.
But, lucky me, yeah. But what's funny about it is you're exactly right. When I was on the fishing side and I was dealing with like Abu Garcia and Penn and Berkeley Fishing, and lo and behold, like I figured out that, oh my gosh, my springs they were starting to fill up. My summers were cram-packed and my falls were wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And
about the time fishing tapered off in like September, October, your schedule loosened up. Now in the publishing world, we've got deadlines to meet, and as I know you realize this, the January, maybe mid-January through the end of March is like our cram period. And we are doing everything we can to get spring and summer issues out the door. And same with the website. I manage mostly digital content, but I work a lot in the magazine side of things too. But we start doing the double issues, right, in the fall. And so you get into August, September, October, November, man, you got some free time. And I like to bank my time off for that. But I wouldn't trade it. I love working in the fishing industry. I love the people. There's a certain purity in the fishing industry that I don't think the hunting industry has. As an example, like you really have to prove yourself in fishing. You can't accidentally stumble on a giant deer and accidentally be deemed an expert. We all know how that can go.
That is true. However, I do see a bunch of bikini-clad ladies that claim they're experts on the Instagrams.
Let's not go there.
Is that what you're getting at?
I mean, that's
are they experts? Is Thomas Allen saying that the bikini-clad ladies on Instagram are expert fishermen?
I'm definitely not saying that. But what I would like to say, since we've breached the topic, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, nothing would do the fishing industry create more value and generate more interest and more participation than a legit female bass angler to qualify for the elites, make the classic, and win some trophies. And I think everybody in the fishing industry would love that. I would love it.
Man, I would love it.
The million-dollar question is why not? Why aren't they doing it? And it comes back to probably just common sense. They know better than to put all kinds of money on a fishing derby. They'd rather spend that on a nice vehicle or something that makes more sense. I don't know, but
okay. Man, I'm trying to think of lady anglers that actually, and the people who are like, I thought this was Gun Talk Hunt. Well,
there's some out there that are
Gun Talk Hunt with KJ and Thomas Allen sitting here chatting. But you have to think, fishing is a lot. If fishing is hunting,
it is. The fish
you are hunting for fish.
The fish do not discriminate.
If you watched any of the Bassmaster Classic this past, few weeks ago, and Jason Christie is hunting them up, man, he's Oh
Well, and
my
he's a
gosh,
fantastic hunter, and that
he
just a
is.
brief little rabbit trail. Like the best anglers are also fantastic hunters.
They are. I mean, Gerald Swindle,
Mm-hmm.
fantastic hunter. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it would be nice for a female angler to bust onto the scene and go toe to toe with the Kevin Van Dams and the Iconellis and the JT Kenneys and all those guys. But I don't know why they haven't. I can think of a couple that are really solid anglers,
Right.
but they just
I
have no interest in it.
too. I think that lady is born and probably fishing right now that's going to change the game that way. And
Man, that would be something else.
it would, and I hope that I'm around to cover it, because it really does provide. I mean, you mentioned anglers a minute ago that motivate us, guys. We've been able to spend time in the boat with that really inspire us. I don't expect I know that male anglers probably inspire some female anglers, but nothing would inspire them more than a very successful, dominant female angler. So it would be good for business. It would be good for the incoming female anglers that are young and learning how to fish. They got somebody they can latch onto and learn from. So there's all kinds of angles there. I mean, I could go on for days. The unanswered question is, why hasn't one made it to the big leagues? And now listen, so, I don't, let me say this. I have no problem admitting I do not believe that a male who decides he's a female belongs in female sport. I'm happy to stand on that platform. Do what you want. We're going there. It doesn't need to be everybody's problem. I don't think that females ought to be in a different class when it comes to fishing and hunting. Like,
no.
The fish, the deer, the quarry you're after do not discriminate about who's pursuing them. And I think that lady is alive now. She's going to make waves in coming years, and I can't wait for it.
I will tell you this much. I believe that the female angler that is out there that is going to change the fishing industry is going to be in the probably 18 to 27-year-old range.
When they make their break, right?
Yep. Because maybe it's this way for hunting too, but you look at it and all these young anglers, they know the electronics. The electronics game is changing the way we hunt. It's changing the way we fish. I mean, look at our Onyx maps. The guys that are really tuned in to the digital mapping services that are out there and the GPS, coordination systems that we've got in place today, they're becoming some of the best anglers and some of the best hunters.
That's 100% right. And I just think when we go to ICAST, and you remember these days where you're like, oh man, it's the same show over and over again. We get to see all our friends, best part of ICAST. But really there's very seldom something brought to the table that really, and we all hate the word game changer, right? But something that's truly a game changer. And I think when it comes to apparel, maybe rods and reels need to be a little bit more ergonomically friendly to a female hand. Maybe something like that where there's going to be a product development to support incoming female anglers. There's all kinds of angles here, but I value the fact that when that person comes in, there are going to be companies falling all over themselves to create products to accommodate that group of people.
Oh, yeah. And they should be started in that direction anyway.
They should be. But on the flip side, if the demand, right, that's right now, gas is not in demand like they want us to think it is, but it's priced like it's out of this world in demand.
Yeah.
Sorry, had to say it. But the same applies to fishing and hunting products. They're not going to spend a whole lot of money in R&D when it comes to finding a product for somebody that's not there yet, right? They may be willing to do it when the time comes, but why invest the money if there's no guarantee in return? So I think that person
I have a question. So you look at the female hunters on the hunting side. Let's go over the hunting side. And you've got companies like tailoring specifically to the female hunter. Look at Proas. Proas? Is it Proas, the camo company? And they're
especially, yes, right?
Right. But you look at stuff like that, and so why have there been more successful female hunters than there have female anglers?
This is a loaded question, and it's hard to answer this. There are a handful of legitimate female hunters. I think that there are probably more than we know about, and
There's more than we know about because they do their thing and they don't want acclamation. They don't want all the big sponsorships. The
Mhm.
ones you see typically are not the ones that are out there ripping it.
There's a few, and a couple of them in Minnesota. Even it's hard to answer this and not sound discriminatory, but I'm really not. Like if I've not exemplified how much that would mean to me and the people I work with, then I didn't try hard enough. But really, I think it's easier to be successful in hunting when your partner is doing most of the work. And I'm not downplaying that across the board. That doesn't apply to everybody. But it's easier to go sit in a tree stand, practice your bow all summer, do work that definitely matters, and then shoot a big deer that ultimately came at the time investment of somebody else, get that on video, and you're a celebrity. And there are countless versions of that across the industry.
Yeah. I think the competitive realm too kind of plays a role in that too. And it's hard. I mean, fishing tournaments are difficult. You're banking on a little green fish with a brain the size of a pin head. I mean, that's what you're banking on. You know, I mean, so really, I mean, I think that competitiveness and, you know, that a lot of like, it's just hard to break into.
This is going back to traditional gender roles, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but what if the way a man is wired is to be a hunter-gatherer? That is his innate God-given instinct to be a hunter-gatherer provider, which I think in most traditional families, that's the case. And in most of those scenarios, the female, the mother, the wife, the spouse, the girlfriend is the nurturer, the provider as well, especially in multiple income homes. But they don't have the competitive edge in general that their male counterparts do. That's, again, not a blanket statement. That's not everybody, but in general, I think that's a pretty fair assessment of traditional gender roles that have, we'll use the word, evolved into modern day, that maybe that competitive edge is just not as prevalent with modern ladies. And that's the opposite, or the opposite is true with some of them. They're even more competitive and more successful because of that. So there's not a good answer, but the bottom line is I believe it, you believe it.
Oh yeah.
That lady, I think, is building her skills right now, and I'm excited to one day figure out who it is and watch the industry change.
Oh yeah. And it needs to, for sure. But I mean, we're completely off topic of where I wanted to go, because
about that. It wasn't, I didn't plan on us talking about that today, but that is,
I didn't either. Well, you have a daughter. I mean, how cool would it be for her to have like those influential, like role models growing up within the outdoor industry, and especially on the fishing side, because that's where her dad works. Like that's where her dad lives. Well, you know, to have someone come in place that would challenge a guy's traditional role in the fishing industry would be huge for your daughter.
It would be. And Steve Panaz, mutual friend of ours, his daughter is a hunting fanatic. She's one of the few that I mentioned earlier from Minnesota to boot that would hit the ground running anywhere in the world and become a successful huntress. And that's awesome. And my daughter, you know, we've kind of played it safe here, especially with social media today. She doesn't quite know that there's a whole community of lady hunters and anglers out there. When the day comes, she'll find out. And I think that she'll probably hold her own within that community because she's been out with me and been successful so many times. But I want her to experience that community on her own, almost by accident, rather than me forcing it on her so she feels obligated to be part of it. I want her passion in the outdoors to be legitimate and authentic. That's the big thing. So
not forced at all. I'm going to take a break real quick. We're going to jump in here with a word from our sponsors right now. Vortex optics. Now, you get a new optic, maybe it's a Vortex Venom, whatever it might be, and you're going to mount this optic. And here's a real quick tip for you. When you go to tighten the rings on your screw to lock that optic in place, what I want you to do is I want you to make sure the eye relief is good before you start tightening those screws. Now, typically the inch-pounds per torque is like 25 inches. So make sure you have a good set of torque wrenches with you. But once you get that eye relief set, do it in a pattern much like you would when you change a tire. Okay, so when you're tightening down your Vortex optic, what I want you to do is I want you to start with one, go opposite, then start with the other, go opposite, just like when you change a tire and you put those nuts on. That's all you got to do. For more information about Vortex Optics, please visit vortexoptics.com. And Silencer Central. Now, their slogan is silence delivered. And they are not joking, because I just got my Banish 30 in the mail, like literally came in the mailbox. So this process started about a year ago. Now, with the new e-forms process, it's not going to take that long. They're estimating a roughly 90 to 100 days to get your silencer delivered in the mail. Maybe it's a Banish 46, maybe it's a Banish 30, maybe it's a 22 can they offer. So they send you the fingerprint kit. You download a picture from your phone of yourself. It's just a selfie. That's all it is. Pretty easy stuff. They manage the truss for the life of the truss that the suppressor is on. It's a pretty easy system, because I walk through it all by myself. So definitely check out silencercentral.com. And Lockdown, secure your lifestyle. Now, Lockdown's new secure wall organization products help you turn any wall into a gun room, or just organizing your life and all the products that lie within it. Because, okay, my reloading bench is a little messy right now. And I know what it's missing. It's missing some secure walls to get those products up off that table and in front of my eyesight. Because once it's there, I know what I'm looking at. I know what I'm looking for, and it's going to help you stay more organized. And a more organized reloading bench is going to be key for your success every shot. So if you want more information on the secure walls from Lockdown, visit lockdown.com. All right. All right, we're back. We're with Thomas Allen. This is Gun Talk Hunt. I'm your host, KJ. Almost forgot my name there. We're talking about.
Just two letters.
I know, right? It's always difficult on these days to remember my own name. But I had initially had the thought of running Thomas Allen in here. We're going to talk some turkey. We're going to talk, we're a few weeks out from turkey seasons, lighting up all over the place, and like gearing up for that time. But we kind of jumped off topic real quick and talking about females within the outdoor industry and how it would really help both industries, hunting and fishing, if there were some women just taking over and really like pushing the guys, on the competition level and honestly on public ground or wherever it is.
It's not a very easy situation to navigate or to have a discussion of, because when you talk about the situation, you're kind of you almost feel bad, because you're stating facts that there are not as many women involved in a traditionally male-dominated space, but the industry would benefit when they get a stronghold. But here's a reality, Kevin. The female demographic in hunting and fishing is the fastest growing demographic. I can't
use your words.
The fastest growing demographic in the outdoors. And I think that there are a lot of companies that are embracing that. You mentioned hunting. There are clothing lines. There's obviously female size weapons as far as guns and bows.
And archery, yeah.
Same thing's happening in fishing as far as clothing is concerned, life jackets for kayak fishing. One of the things with both of these sports is comfort. If you can get them out there, they can feel comfortable, they're going to stay longer and experience more success. So ultimately, the clothing sides of the business really have made up a lot of that ground. So it's happening, and it's a good thing.
It is. And, going back 15, 20 years ago, the female hunters were, they were the silent, they were silent. Like there wasn't a lot of movement in that arena. And
I think we could probably name the 3 or 4 that were.
Oh yeah.
Involved and effective, but
I think you're right. I think from my perspective, again, it's difficult talking about this subject too because neither of us are females. So that kind of, take it with a grain of salt. And we're probably going to do what most guys do, is, and we're going to stick our feet in our mouths a couple times here and there. But like, it's needed. Like,
Yep.
these conversations need to be open. They need to be introduced.
I can give
Because
an example of some of this evolution, Kevin, that's interesting. Is I don't know them personally. I've heard about from some good friends in Alabama of some young ladies that are in high school now, and they're tearing up the high school tournament trail. But I've heard that for several years, and it kind of seems like they get involved at the high school level. They perhaps move on to college, and then that's generally where it stops. Now, if you think back to your years as a young adult, a lot of the time that's kind of when you're figuring out what your goals in life are professionally. Maybe you're interested in starting a family, all of that stuff, which it takes two to run a household.
yeah.
It really does. And maybe they're just smarter than we are.
They probably are. They're like, wait, I could go to work, make money, save it, retire comfortably, have a family.
Yeah.
And we want to throw lures into trees.
Have you ever thought about the expense of a brand new bass boat, fully rigged, and then like there's no way to recoup ROI on that at all? Unless
None.
you're an Elite Series pro and you win the Classic, it's so difficult. But
I shudder at the expense that is sitting in my garage, and that I've donated to trees, to rocks, to stumps. And then I'm looking over next to it, a gun safe, and I'm like, well, I'm never going to sell them.
Don't start trying to justify, because you're never gonna. It's just a good way to live. And I think that our passions for the outdoors is going to be passed on to our children, and hopefully that they are able to encourage their friends. And maybe my son will meet a girl someday that loves to fish, and maybe there's a boy out there that can hang with my daughter. I doubt it.
Probably not.
but that's my goal in life, is to have a family with my children, their spouses, and my eventual grandchildren, where we can get together and fish and hunt. That is my dream life. I won't force it on either of them, but if I'm able to bring them to that and their families are involved, like, that's the goal. That's what I want. So,
well, it would be a huge benefit. And I'm kind of doing the same thing with my boys. I mean, you take them out enough, they're going to love it. I mean, it's just how it's going to be. They're going to enjoy it. They're going to enjoy the outdoors, but it's definitely an interesting conversation. I'm going to tell you this much. The female that comes up in the fishing industry, she is going to be fiercely independent. I mean, because it takes a strong will, and it can be done, to not listen to the doc talk, not listen to the talk outside, and just stay on goal, stay on task, and get the job done.
Well, in our lifetimes, I hope that we get to experience that. It'll be a great thing for everybody. But Kevin, we got a melt coming. Okay. I've got 25 inches of snow outside. And if I was an old Turk, I'd be waking up in the morning, just kind of wanting to lay my head back a little bit, kind of stretch the feathers out, gobbles. It is about time to be thinking about that too.
It is time. And we're going to take a real quick break right here. We're going to listen to a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with Thomas Allen. Brownells, the new 1:6 by 24 match precision optic, which is MPO, is equipped with an illuminated donut reticle, which provides an uncluttered reticle to acquire targets quickly. I mentioned a word in there that you're probably a little bit confused about. What do donuts and optics have to do with each other? Well, it's pretty simple. This looks like a donut, and the target fills up the optic nicely. You can acquire your target nicely and make precision shots with the match precision optics. And I love a 1:6 on an AR-15. So, or honestly, even an AR-10, a 308, 5.56, doesn't matter what you put it on. You're going to be hitting your target every time. The MPO's donut reticle allows your eye to naturally place the target in the center. It's pretty easy. It's easy to line up. There's not a lot of clutter in that reticle, which I love. But it is found at Brownells.com. Give the new Match Precision Optics a look. And Savage Arms. Savage Arms is known for their 110 rifles, their backcountries and stuff like that. But they have a whole new series. It's the Backcountry Extreme series, found at savagearms.com/backcountry. But there's 6 premium grade rifles in this class, and they are purpose built for specific applications. So if you're a backcountry hunter, there's a high country rifle, there's a Ridge Warrior, there's a bear hunter if you're really a bear hunter and you want a big rifle, and there's an Impulse big game. So that's their straight pull rifle for big game. Great rifles. I promise you won't be disappointed. But they are available in a variety of cartridges and configurations to fit your hunting style and your hunting quarry. So visit savagearms.com to learn more. Hey, we're back with Thomas Allen, and we're talking. We got off the rails on the first half. I apologize, but we're back. We are back. We're back on topic because turkey season is here, and it's time to get your poop in a group. But all that starts off with a place to hunt. So Thomas Allen, like, you are one of the best I've ever met, and trust me, I give this guy lashings for like just being Thomas Allen.
That's fair.
And he's a good friend. So I can do that. But you're one of the best I've ever seen at doing your due diligence in acquiring different private properties to hunt. So walk us through your process and how that you differ yourself from other hunters.
Well, you just got to be into meeting people. You have to be willing to set aside what funny little gut fear you have of going and knocking on an unfamiliar door, because
I don't want to get shot. That's number one.
Well, and honestly, regionally, that's important to understand. I lived in Alabama for 5 years, and knocking on doors is probably not a recommended practice. Or some areas maybe honestly in town, urban hunting, where that's more likely to succeed. But you get outside in the sticks, Alabama, I did that once. Not going to again. I think it ultimately comes down to, Kevin, you got to be in love with the sport enough to commit to finding access and understanding you're going to hear no over and over and over again, but it's an odds game. I'm an odds man. And it comes down to knocking on enough doors, you're eventually going to find some. Not always in every place. The Midwest, I think there's still quite a bit of access to be had through knocking on a door, building a relationship. And that starts... It starts with gasoline, which right now is very expensive.
I mean, you might as well just go out and buy a lease or just buy some property.
Maybe
at this point,
it's crazy. I put $100 in my truck the other day and it didn't even go to 3/4. So good
night. Yeah. It's time to bust out the Schwinn.
Oh, wow.
Start pedaling around.
10 speed, right? Flip the handles around and
Anyway, you know what? Actually, we're going to, in part 2 of this, we are going to get into gear, but that might not be a bad idea, is investing in an e-bike.
And putting a bow scabbard or a shotgun scabbard on the side, like with a horse. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. When it comes to gaining property access, you have to be personable. I'm in my own house right now. I like wearing my hoodie sweatshirt, my hat down low. But if I'm going to go knock on somebody's door, I don't wear camo. I don't wear a hunting related brand. This is silly, but I will wear my glasses just like this most of the time, because I don't want to show up wearing sunglasses and I'll forget to take those off. So a lot of times you want to be approachable. You want to look professional, and you don't want to be intimidating. And so I'll walk you through a very simple process that I do to gain access. I'm going to walk up, I'm going to knock on the door. I'm going to take 2 steps down off of their porch so that I'm not looking down on them when they come to answer the door, because I'm a big man and I don't mean for it to be, but sometimes that's intimidating. You say hi, you smile. It's smart to take a kid, especially if your kids are going to be hunting with you, because that does soften the situation. And you just kindly ask. But leading up to that point is the most important thing, because you don't want to knock on doors that might say yes to a property that turkeys don't live on. Where we have a Midwestern winter, turkeys have a tendency to winter in different locations than they do during the spring. So you want to be putting on the truck tire miles. You want to be putting a lot of time behind good binoculars and scouting and getting a plan or a better idea of where those turkeys live. And I'm telling you, like, 3 to 4 trips to areas you intend on knocking on doors. Spend the time isolating where those birds live. And then if you got 2 or 3 properties that kind of come together where those birds live, then you've got 3 places to ask. And it comes down to a numbers game. Like I mentioned, the more times you knock, the more places you visit, the more likely you're going to get access. If you happen to get access in one spot where you need 3 properties, then you can go next door and say, hey, this gentleman next door just said it was okay. I wanted to see if you would mind. And you kind of ask in a way that's very passive.
Right.
And in short, that's my process. But ultimately, you want to be approachable. You want to be friendly. And you have to be willing to accept no.
I think that's one of the biggest things is being presentable.
Yeah.
How often would you go back? I mean, if you received a no this year, would you be, depending on their demeanor, would you try that again maybe?
Yeah, the demeanor is definitely a telling side of it. And the other answer that you'll get that can tell you whether a return visit is worth it or not is if they have family that hunts there. And there's one in particular farm that I asked about that had, man, there was like 40 or 50 birds I watched on a regular basis, 10 toms. It was ridiculous. Every place in the area they hunted it and family hunted it. And the first thing I tell a landowner is if you say yes to somebody else, I would like to know so that I don't get in their way. So you put that burden on yourself. And a lot of times that clears the way for you having exclusive property. But if you don't get exclusive access, try to communicate with the other hunters, be respectful, stay out of their way. Everybody that had permission before me gets the right of way.
Yeah.
And if I'm the first one there, then I'm lucky. But for the most part, it's a matter of just giving people their space. And Kevin, asking permission a second time to an unfamiliar or unestablished relationship, I don't often go back.
Right.
For example, however, one of the properties I have permission to turkey hunt on, they said no to deer hunting this last fall. But I do think my potential to get on there to bow hunt only is better this year than last. So what I'll do is not bring it up, not going to ask until we're done turkey hunting, go out and revisit and ask again. But again, you've got to be willing to hear no and smile and keep on going. Because if they say no, you're like, oh, well, piss off.
Right.
So
I mean, you burn that bridge. Just say, hey, thank you. I appreciate your time, and turn around and walk away, walk into the sunset.
One thing to add to that, a lot of people might say, well, we may be hunting early in the season. And by simply stating, hey, do you mind if I stop back later in the year and see how it's going? 99% of them will say yes. And that worked out for us last year. A friend of mine on the very last hunt of the season, I did that very situation, called the guy. He said, yep, go ahead. We got permission. And they killed a fantastic turkey. This buddy's son of mine, an amazing bird that they're getting full body mounted to boot.
Wow.
Because of that access. So yes, go back, but consider how it went the first time.
Right. Well, yeah. And I had one instance where we wanted to hunt. It was a sand pit right along the river, 5 minutes from my house in like a giant, like in the city limits. Like it was perfect for bow hunting. And he gave us permission. He was like, yeah, no one's really asked me. And we were very cordial, and we got to scouting it and realized it was really good, like way better than what we anticipated. And we started hunting it, and all of a sudden we see a feeder pop up, like right at the entrance. And I'm like, something's up. So go talk to him. And he's like, oh yeah, my son, he decided he wanted to start hunting. And very quickly I told him, I was like, well, best of luck to him. And, we bowed out. We said, he's got it. He's got that property. We're not going to bother the family vibe going on there. So it's just reading those social cues and picking up on, how they're reacting and feeders that pop up or blinds that pop up out of nowhere. Have a discussion, go in and say, hey, this isn't mine. Like, whose is it? And if they say family.
It's very important to be respectful that way. Cause I don't look at this as a one and done. Like I don't look at this as being, okay, right, I'm only going to hunt here this year. I'm going to burn it up, shoot every turkey that I can. Most landowners don't appreciate that approach. And second of all, you still have an open door to go back and ask. Let's say that grandson, nephew, niece, whomever, does hunt a couple years, goes off to college. If you go back and ask, maybe like, well, they hunted once. You're welcome to it. I don't know that they're going to be back. If they show up, I'll let you know. At least then you'll have the access and have had the discussion. There's a whole nother point to this I want to point out, and I know we're pushing it on time here, but I like to remain out of sight, out of mind. Now, there's two facets to that. If you don't ever hunt a place you got permission for, when you go back to ask, they'll be like, well, you never came. Well, you want them to know you're there. So a text message often is enough, but I seldom park the truck on a very obvious field approach or on a busy highway where somebody knows I'm in there. I don't want neighbors to think, there must be a deer here or a turkey here worth hunting. So I try to keep my truck hidden or park. If I have to walk a quarter mile or a half mile, I will remain out of sight, out of mind. And then this is the most important part, Kevin. I believe your follow-up when the season is over is going to allow you an invite back. And last year I had access to 10 turkey properties. We had a fantastic season. So this is 2021. And on those 10 properties, we killed 12 turkeys between me, my friends, and family. Every one of those landowners, I took my drone, flew over their property, took some high-res images, and as a gift, I gave them an 8x10 and a frame of their property. Because what's more important to a farmer than their dirt? Not much.
That's true. That's where they make their living. Yeah, that's a good. I was fixing to say, man, share the bounty with them. Share the meat with them. If your son or daughter get a deer, take pictures and give them a picture or something. But I love the idea of running a drone over the property and doing that. That's awesome. That's a good way to do it, man.
Well, and like I say, I just think about how the man has made his living plowing that dirt, and he's sharing that dirt with you for your enjoyment and for making memories with your family. It's the least you can do. And you're right. It could be meat. It could be a gift card to, Kevin, you and I in Iowa, we gave Casey gift cards to one of the landowners. He was blown away. He's like, man, I go to Casey's every day.
Every day. And we definitely, we made a good contact there. That's for sure. Well, I'm not going to say where it's at.
Those people. And I don't think it takes much money. Don't do money. I think money is an insult.
Yeah, I think something that's personal, something that's sentimental is good, and a gift card is really good because, that that they're going to need gas or something like that, and they're always filling up tractors, especially now. So, I
listened to your interview with Jeremy King earlier this week, and you brought up Casey's breakfast pizza a few times, so I know that's on your hit list. You miss it.
Oh, I miss it. 100% I miss it. Every time if I pass a Casey's, I'm going in. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Cause I remember we were in Iowa and we're sitting there every morning. I kid you not, on the way to the stand, every morning we'd stop in and we'd run in and grab some Casey's breakfast pizza. And it was phenomenal.
Life-changing.
Oh, it is life-changing. That's a good point. Thomas Allen, thank you for joining us. Now, next week we're gonna do a part 2 on this. We're gonna stay on the line here, but we're gonna deliver to you next week the gear and the tactics that you need to be successful this turkey season.